In today's economic environment, we see a lot of practices struggling. And I get it. It's a tough economy. Patients are backing off on spending money. Consumers in general are spending less money. So, are you struggling to build a thriving chiropractic practice? Hi, everybody. Welcome to the KC CHIROpulse Podcast, brought to you by CATS Consultants, helping doctors keep their eye on success. I'm Dr. Michael Perusich, your host, and I'm joined by my co-host, Marisa Mateja. Hello, Marisa.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well, thank you. So we see this a lot. We hear from doctors all the time. We go to conventions, we're at speaking engagements, we're coaching, we get calls from doctors, and we're hearing this common theme. I'm struggling.
Yeah.
How do I get out of this funk? How do I get profitable again? And just recently we've talked to a couple of doctors who've come to the realization that, oh my gosh, they didn't make any money last year. In fact, they may have lost money. So what's happening? How are we not creating, how are we not building thriving practices right now in chiropractic?
I think there's a lot of different layers to that. I think you have to factor in what's your business plan, what's your practice look like, what does your marketing look like, what does your idea on patient relationships look like? There's so many different things. I think one of the first things is just laying the right foundation, right? I feel like laying that foundation of what you want your business to be definitely is step one.
So we see a lot of doctors creating these top heavy practices. And what do I mean by that? I mean, they get so far away from their foundational components because they're just trying to add new things in, and some of it's out of panic. And all of a sudden you're ready to just topple over. And that's part of what happens is if you don't have that solid foundation in your practice, you really can't make the steps towards creating that thriving practice like you want. So what does your business plan look like? If you've been in practice for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, when was the last time you even looked at it?
Yeah.
Your business plan should be a living document. It should be updated continuously so that you're always working toward that vision that you want. So think of your business plan as literally a roadmap to success.
Yeah.
And so you've got to unfold the map from time to time, or, relocate the GPS, if you will, and make sure that you've got all the key elements of a thriving practice built into your business plan.
Yeah, what's your business plan look like? What are you aiming to do, right? So, what kind of services are you providing? And are you offering all of those services to patients that are coming in? Or do you have, towels hanging on equipment or things that you're not using?
Mm.
We find ourselves from time to time doing that. It's almost like you had to dust off the cobwebs, reevaluate what kind of things you have in your office, and are you really proposing those things to patients in good treatment plans.
Right. You have to build those things into your treatment plans. And we see doctors have trouble with implementation quite often when it comes to those kind of things. And, we've been helping a lot of doctors kind of dust off the cobwebs lately on some of their equipment and teaching them how to build those successfully into patient treatment plans. And my gosh, overnight, their revenue's going up. I just talked to a doctor who has increased his practice by over $30,000 just by dusting off one piece of equipment last year. It's amazing.
Right. And what a great tool, just one little step in the foundation of your practice, right? So just looking at those things and looking around your clinic atmosphere and saying, what do I have to offer? And am I really setting myself up for success? Along with the other side of that is our patients for success, because you got those tools for a reason. You bought those
That's right.
things because they do something to help your patient.
Yep.
So what are those things? Reevaluate some of those things.
Yeah. So, just sashay through your clinic and what kind of equipment do you have? What's not being used or what's not being used very often? So make sure that if you own it, use it. If you're
Absolutely.
not going to use it, sell it, get it out of the clinic. Don't let it be, I'll use your term, don't let it be the towel collector.
Right. Exactly.
And we've seen practices like that. So, you've got to lay those good foundational blocks. You've got to have good patient communication. You've got to follow your business plan. Your business plan has to identify who your target market is, what your
Yeah.
vision is. We talk to doctors all the time about, what's your uniqueness in the marketplace?
Yeah,
do you know what makes you unique, or are you just shotgunning everything and trying to just get anybody with a spine in the door like we all did in the first year of practice? And if you're in the first year of practice, that you have to do that.
sure.
You can't just define a single target market or 2 or 3 target markets. You've gotta be broad scale, but the longer you're in practice, the more you should be honing that down.
That's right.
So, great example, over time in our practice, we quit seeing patients with knee problems. Why? Because I
Bruce
didn't
didn't
like
like him.
Dr. Bruce didn't like them. I just didn't like knee conditions unless it was an athletic issue. I just didn't like them. And so because of that, I just wasn't very good at getting good outcomes for patients with their knees. So I would refer them out. Here's the crazy thing, because I was honest with them and referred them on and they got great care somewhere else, whether it was another chiropractic clinic or an orthopedist or whoever,
Yeah.
they referred all kinds of patients in. So, it's a win-win when you start to narrow down your target market and work with the patients that you want to work with and the conditions that you like working with. That's part of the foundation.
Yeah. So important to know what it is that you want to achieve with patients as well. What do you like doing with patients? What do you enjoy? Because if you don't enjoy what you're doing, that's a foundational block that's going to be a missing component, and patients feel that.
Very much so. Very much so. And another foundational block is getting your compliance house in order. And
I'm
this is
sorry.
so important.
I laughed just a little bit on that one because it doesn't matter who we talk to, there's always holes in our foundation of compliance.
Yeah. And here's the funny thing. We feel buried sometimes by compliance. When we're talking about compliance, it's things like, making sure you're billing correctly, you're following the insurance company rules. There's HIPAA, that's part of compliance. There's No Surprises Act, that's part of compliance. So there's several layers there. And because of there's so many layers of it, I think a lot of us kind of we feel overburdened by it. But
Yeah.
here's the funny thing. If you'll just implement it and implement it correctly, a lot of them are actually tools to build your practice.
Absolutely. We've seen that dramatically change over the last couple of years just using no surprises correctly.
Right.
You have an adherence to treatment plans, people understand the cost better. It's actually been a benefit if you're using it right.
Exactly. It's been a huge boon to the chiropractic practice, at least in our opinion. So, if that's one of the things that you're struggling with, get in touch with us that we can show you how to very easily implement those kind of compliance things. So you've got that compliance foundation in your practice and you're making it an actual tool to help retain patients in the practice.
So as we're talking, it's like this layering event happening, I feel like. So all I'm seeing is this foundation getting stronger and stronger, right? So it's when you have all these little components in place, that foundation is strong. Oh my gosh, what happens? You have a thriving practice. All these little things feed into patients adhering to treatment plans, staying with us. It's just amazing how much these things fit together.
It really is. It's like a puzzle.
Yeah,
It's just like a puzzle. And if you just get all those pieces together, does it take you a little bit to get them all together? Sure. Does it take a little bit of training and development with your staff to make it work for you and not just be a burdensome aspect of practice? Yes, it does. But once you get it down, you've got a puzzle that you want to put glue on the backside and frame it,
sure, sure.
literally, because it becomes
Okay.
a yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. In talking about all that, the next layer to that, in my opinion, is how do we treat our patients?
Right.
Are we patient centric? Are we paying attention to what they want from us and what they're telling us? And are we using that to help build that business model? So, just a little bit of that patient centric ness it
Mhm.
really affects our business model potentially because they're telling us in our community, we need this. We've got clients who added in things like dry needling because they had patients driving to go get these services and they weren't in their area. So they added that service in because they were patient centric enough to be listening to what their patients needed in their community. It's another huge foundational block.
You really hit the nail on the head with this one. So this is so significant because being patient centric as opposed to being doctor centric or clinic centric, is an important aspect of a thriving practice.
Yeah,
Because why do patients come to us? Do they come to us to feed our ego? Do they come to us to feed our bottom line? Do they
right.
come to us to because we're great conversationalists? No. They have a problem, they have a need, and they're hoping that you can fulfill that need and help them with it. And if you do, then they'll, what do I always say? Stay, pay, refer, and believe in what you do.
Absolutely.
And they'll become lifetime patients. But if we flip that script and we aren't patient centric, then those are the patients that are going to drop out of care after the first visit, second visit, third visit, first progress exam, at the end of acute care treatment, and they don't go into wellness. You've got to develop strong patient relationships. And we do that by developing trust as well as creating an atmosphere where patients believe, not just see, not just feel, but believe, truly believe that we have their best interest at heart.
Yes. And that's really what we're there for, right? It's to build a strong relationship with this person so that we can help them the best way possible. They're coming to us saying that they can't perform something in their life, and we're there to help them try to figure out how to get to that place where they can do those things again. It's so important to pay attention to what patients are talking to us about, what they need from us,
What they need, yeah.
what they
What
need.
their personal journey is.
And it's funny when you do that, that foundation is laid to really now lead the patient down the best path of care that they need. Now we flip the script and start looking at how our treatment plans affect that patient and
Yep.
what's going to be best for them. And when we put them first, the practice thrives
It
because of
truly
that.
thrives.
Yeah.
It does. And it really kind of blows the doors off of your practice in a way, because when you spend the time to learn and develop effective patient communication skills, not only you doctors, but your staff as well,
Yeah.
then you're really going to understand and be able to create a strategy or a tactic to drill down on what those needs are. And I'm going to tell you, and I'm not going to give it all away. I'm going to tell you, it's not their pain. It's not their pain. It goes deeper than that. So when we develop those effective communication strategies, we really we don't need to teach people about what chiropractic is all about.
Yeah.
We put ourselves in a position where we're teaching patients, showing patients how effective we are in helping them get back whatever it is they can't do. And
You know,
then, yeah, go ahead.
those strong communication skills are just huge. So it's understanding the right terminology, the right way to talk to patients, the right way to approach them and make sure that they understand that you have the doctor authority. And that's one of those foundational blocks that's huge, I believe, is
Yep.
not only in communication, but having that authority to lead them and help them understand. Sometimes I think we forget patients don't know as much as we think they might, so we have to give them that good plan of action so that they understand exactly what we need from them so that we can fulfill their needs to get them better.
Correct. Well said. We focus so much sometimes in practice on the new patient, and we don't think down the road to, you know, okay, this patient's going to need 12 visits. Are we focused on what happens at the end of 12 visits? Are we focused on getting the good outcomes? Are we focused on leading them into lifetime care, wellness care, maintenance care, whatever you want to call it? Or are we just so focused on the new patient? We're great at marketing, but do we ever get the new patient to stay?
Right.
And one of the foundational blocks in building any business, not just chiropractic business,
Right.
is retention,
Yeah. Repeat business is what you
repeat
need.
business.
It
Exactly.
and I can't stress that enough, and I will say this is one area of this profession that I have seen that we fall down on.
Big time.
And we fall down on repeat business a lot of times. We focus so much on, like you said, bringing in those new patients that work top heavy on communication and talking to patients. But we fall down when we get to that middle of that treatment plan, to the end of the treatment plan, to really showing them the path that's next.
Yep.
And so there's a huge component for a lot of offices there to increase what they're doing just by retention.
And a lot of times our communication strategies are so ineffective that we're actually pushing patients out the door early, first, second, third visit.
Absolutely.
They're dropping out of care before we ever get them to the point where they're seeing great outcomes. And so we're losing the opportunity for great testimonials. We're losing the opportunity for referrals. You know, we've done we've not done studies, but we read studies about how what happens to a business when you lose somebody and how many referrals you actually lose. And on average, every patient that drops out represented 7 to 10 referrals that you lost to. So think about that. You didn't lose just one, you lost 10. You have 10 dropouts in a month, you lost 100 patient potentials.
That's the point where people don't realize the foundation of communication and all of that are so important to your business. And so
Huge.
no matter where you are in practice, this is a key point I think here to make real quick is that no matter where you're at in practice, you can fix your foundational blocks. It's
Yep,
just retooling just a little bit and paying attention to what's actually happening with patients in your office. When
yep.
we evaluate new clients and what's going on, it's amazing the things that we bring to light to them and show them because they're so far in the weeds sometimes that they've never stopped to back up and take a big, broad picture of what their practice is actually doing, what patients are doing in their practice. So it's important for those foundations to step back if you're not getting all those referrals, those testimonies to the, all of those little things that are not happening. Pay attention to those things because that's some of the foundational blocks that truly can change your practice.
Yes, truly. Hey, we need to take a quick break and hear a word from our sponsor. We're talking about how to develop, how to build a thriving chiropractic practice, whether it's this crazy economy we're in right now or at any point in time. So when we come back, I want to talk a little bit about some of the financial components of the foundation
Oh,
of
good.
building that thriving practice. So hang on, everybody. Quick word from our sponsor. We'll be right back.
Chiropractors, are you struggling with practice management? We have personalized plans, expert advice, and a supportive community. Join Pat and take back control of your practice.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the KC CHIROpulse Podcast, brought to you by CATS Consultants. We're talking about building a thriving chiropractic practice. We've already talked about some of the foundational components, and we're going to continue talking about those. How to be more patient-centric and how that really helps from a foundational aspect, really build a strong practice. And Marissa, I want to dive into a little bit of the financial aspect of the
You like that.
foundations.
You like that
I
topic,
I
right?
kinda like that.
I think
Yeah,
we both do. I think the financial side of practice is something that's not evaluated enough
right.
in our practice or in our profession. I think we tend to focus on those four main, you know, uh, statistics. It's new patients, it's patient visits, it's
Services
services
and
and collections.
collections.
We tend to focus so much on just those four that we miss really what else is happening in the practice. And if you do a deeper dive, and a lot of our mastery members know, because we have I think it's up to a 33 point, 36 point, uh,
33-point statistical evaluations
yeah,
plus
so
trending analysis.
plus training analysis. So there's so much more, and all of a sudden it opens up all of these ideas that you didn't realize were going on in your practice and how to fix them. So
Yep.
huge, huge benefits in really following the statistics of your practice and
Huge.
deeper than before.
Deeper
Deeper
than
than
the
before.
4. And
So,
we can add one more to the 4. We can add the arbitrary number called PVA.
oh yes, yes. That, I don't even want to talk about that because
No.
it's such a irrelevant number that's just been something that the profession focuses on so much, but in reality, it doesn't tell us a whole lot. And if you're going, really, you should holler at us, give us a call because
Yeah.
we can help you with that.
We can show you how to look deeper.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about setting your practice up for financial success.
Well, there's several components to that. First, we have to have a solid fee strategy. And
Yeah.
far too often, we're either racing to the bottom of the market because the clinic down the street's doing a $29 promotion, and we think then we've got to do a 19. And then, I've seen a few times on Facebook a $9 first day. Like,
Oh,
n-
I mean, you're losing money left and right if you're offering a $9 per stay.
you might as well pay the patients $100 to come in. I mean,
Absolutely. That's really crazy.
here's the funny thing, and I don't mean to get off track here, but the funny thing to me is the service we offer is invaluable to our patients. And never before in the history of chiropractic have patients realized, had the communities realized how valuable chiropractic is.
Yeah.
The pandemic just raised us up on the totem pole of healthcare several notches. So we don't have to be afraid of what we do. We don't have to be afraid to charge the right fee.
Yeah.
And so what is the right fee? Well, your fee strategy has to do really two things, maybe three. You have to build it in a manner that you make a profit, okay? And I know
That's
some of you just
important.
passed out, yeah,
That's
but
a
you
foundational block right
that's a
there.
foundational block because unless you're a 501(c)(3) nonprofit organization, and I don't think really probably any of you are that are listening to this, you have to turn a profit.
Yeah.
You have to be for a for-profit business. Otherwise, you eventually get to the point where you can't see patients anymore because you're out of business, and we certainly don't want that to happen. So how do you do that? Well, you have to understand your insurance contracts if you're on insurance. You have to
Yeah.
understand what your overhead is. You have to understand what your cost to deliver care is. And you have to understand how to calculate those profit numbers in your practice. And I'm not going to lie, it's a little intricate. Um, but that's why you need a good coach that can help you develop those because those
Absolutely.
numbers right there are so important. And Marissa, you and we see this all the time. We see doctors' statistics and their fee strategy is so off that by the time we look at profit, there is none.
Yeah.
And so we've got to be able to develop profit. Now, what do I mean by profit? I mean the money that's left over after you pay overhead, after and that includes you, doctors, your salary.
Yeah.
You're
Any
part of
expense in
overhead,
there, any expense.
any of your expenses, any and all, even the paper towels. So we have to be able to not only set the right pricing strategy for the practice so we develop a profit, but then we have to figure out how to make it competitive. Now, again, it's not a race to the bottom.
Right.
It's not a race to the bottom. When I say how to make it competitive, we've got to figure out how to position ourselves in the marketplace so that patients see value for what we're doing. And so that eliminates the competitive pricing structure right there. You don't have to compete on price. What you're competing on is how you're positioned in the marketplace as a clinic. Are you
Yeah.
just a general clinic? Great. Make sure you position yourself strongly that way. Are you a decompression clinic? Great. Make sure you position yourself strongly in that manner. Are you a pediatric clinic? I could go on and on. So you have to make sure that you're positioned correctly with your marketing and so forth.
Real quick, just a great example
Yeah.
was, the community that we were in. There were several other chiropractors in our area,
Mhm.
but none of them positioned themselves differently than the one next to them. So it was a competition between them. It became on price and these kind of things because they didn't look for their uniqueness. They didn't look for the things that could separate them. We did. We found ways to change that narrative. And when you change that narrative, then you become more like a specialist, if you will. Now, I'm
Mhm.
not saying we were labeled that, but I'm just saying you become a difference versus the other guys. And when you are different, that's a foundational block that sets you apart.
Yep. And we would hear that from patients all the time. You guys are so different.
And we didn't have to compete on price with the other docs. It didn't matter what they were doing. It had
No.
no bearing on our practice what they were doing because we weren't the same in the eyes of the public and
Right.
our patients. So our patients would know that it may take a little bit of time to get into our practice, but they were willing to wait.
Yep.
That's the point in practice that financially ends up setting you way apart from your competitors.
Way apart. And that one's huge. And we could do a whole podcast on that one.
Yeah.
That's a big topic, but it's an important topic. And so when we talk about pricing, you don't have to price yourselves low.
Yeah.
You have to price to your position. So, and I'll just give you a simple example. If you go to a car dealership and you see a Mercedes on the floor and it's brand new and they're charging $7,000 for it, don't you immediately think, what's wrong with that Mercedes? That's an upper
Totally.
end car. Are they
Yeah.
missing a zero somewhere? Is the comma mispositioned? Something's wrong.
Yeah.
And that's what happens to businesses too. If you're not priced correctly, then this is called sustainable pricing. Then you're not going to sustain the right patient base. So if you price yourselves too low, you're going to get the patients who just want the quickie, the low cost,
Right.
they want to control everything. If you price yourself high, but you're still providing low value care, then patients are going to see you as overpriced. So you have to find that sweet spot to create sustainable pricing. So that when I say sustainable, so that you create patients who are willing to pay your price, whatever it is, long term, because they find value in it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a big concept. I can't fully go into it here, but if you're not doing that, if you're hearing from patients, "Hey, I'm quitting care because it's too expensive,"
Yeah.
or "I'm controlling care and I only wanna pay this much," or "I don't want the muscle stem therapy, I just want the adjustment," then some of that is you're not setting your fees correctly.
And we'll tie that back to something we talked about earlier. It could be in your communication strategies as well.
Absolutely.
And that affects your practice tremendously if you don't have the right communication strategies in place. So, along with pricing goes how do we talk to patients about pricing? So, it's very important to tie that back in to that, you know, price, communication, all of those things. Again, good building blocks for a practice. Now, with that being said, I feel like that leads us into another thought process is do you have the right people in place to be able to communicate to patients? I see that sometimes in practices that we talk to, they've hired somebody or they've promoted someone who they feel like are going to be the next manager in their office just because they've been there for a long time, but they don't actually have the communication skills to be able to communicate effectively to patients, to be able to I know you guys are gonna freak out when I say this word, sell. You're gonna yeah,
Oh
I know.
my. Oh my.
Sales are so scary in this profession, it's
Four-letter
funny to
word.
me. That's what we do every day, we sell what we do. And so, having to have that communication in place also depends on who we have delivering that information.
It does. It's huge. And, we might be good at marketing. Marketing is getting people into the door, but selling, and I know everybody hates that word,
I know it's a
but
hard one.
but any business, I don't care who you are,
You
if
have
you're
to
not
sell.
good at sales, then you're not going to have the thriving practice like we're talking about. So you have to incorporate that component, and so you've got to have the right people with the right communication strategy to be able to. And I'm for those of you listening, I'm using air quotes to be able to sell. Four-letter word. I know it's
No,
horrible.
it's horrible.
But we have to be able to implement those kind of strategies, and that just takes the right people. So, and
Yeah,
Marissa, you made a great point. We got to make sure that we're not just promoting people to management level positions because they've been there the longest.
it
And
has to make sense.
it has to make sense.
It has to make sense, and that they have to have the skills and, so many of us use personality tests. I think that's fantastic to
Mhm.
evaluate what we need on our teams and what holes we have on our team, but it's one step further. It's communication styles, it's all of these things to be able to and skill set for sales
Skill
needs to
set.
happen
Yeah.
for And that has to go for everybody in the clinic. There has to be a underlying skill set for sales somewhere in everyone that we hire, in my opinion.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then once we hire the right people, then we have to build a cohesive team. And
Yeah.
part of building a cohesive team is not only working together, but playing together. And what do I mean by that? We need to create a great positive environment, but we also need to have good professional development opportunities for our staff.
Yeah.
So taking time to do staff retreats, to do team building events, to having that weekly staff meeting and everybody's engaged in that meeting, having your daily huddles and those kind of things. All those things are important. And I hear this all the time and it kind of makes me pull what little hair I have left out. Oh, we don't want to take time to do those kind of things because it takes away from patient care. No, no,
It's a
no.
wrong mentality.
It's way wrong. Because here's what happens. When you take the time to develop your staff, your capacity goes up. You can see more patients. You're going to have more patient referrals. You're going to have less onerous on bringing new patients in the door because you've got so many referrals coming in and patients retaining in the practice. And so your need for new patients goes down.
Yep.
Doctors, wouldn't that be great? Because the new patient is number one, the hardest to get to the retention point. But number two, they're more likely to drop out of care early on. So they cost us, and it takes about 3 visits before they really become profitable. So if they drop out before that, then that new patient just cost you money. So spending time for development and those kind of things is hugely important. It also makes your staff retain. So you retain good people by doing those things.
I was gonna say that, it allows staff to A, enjoy what they do, have pride in what they do, and when you enjoy and you have pride in what you do, and you have a wage that is competitive in the marketplace, all of a sudden, you have no reason to leave. You want to stay. You want to build and grow that practice and have ownership in that practice. And when you get staff to that point, it's invaluable to what you're doing. It's not only invaluable
Yeah,
to you as the doctor, it's invaluable to your practice, but it's invaluable to your patient because they are also important in this process because these are the people that they're going to build relationships with. And if our patients can build good relationships with our staff, they're gonna stay. Again, it's all connected. You see how it all fits in this little bubble, right? It all
it
builds
does.
upon each other.
Yeah, we just did a whole virtual seminar on this concept about
It did.
developing that environment where patients just wanna come and watch you burn.
Yeah, yeah,
'Cause
huge.
you're yeah, you're just the funnest, is that a word? You're the
Uh-huh.
most fun business in town.
How
If you
funny.
wanna know what we're talking about, look at companies like Starbucks,
Mhm.
okay? Is Starbucks the cheapest coffee? No, it's probably the most expensive coffee. But why are they always so busy? Why does it take 20 minutes to get through the drive-through lane?
It's fun to see how they're gonna spell your name.
Exactly, exactly, Is the E and the A and Michael gonna be flipped around? Are they gonna add an extra S into Marissa? You know,
Right.
y or call you Clarissa or Martha or
Who knows?
it's kind of fun. And then when you walk into the office and you've got a Starbucks, everybody looks at you and says, "Oh my gosh, what flavor did you get? Did you bring me one?" It it's something people wanna talk about,
You
and
know,
you
the
make
right
your business the same way.
the right people bring personality to your practice.
Amen. Yes, great point, great point.
Yeah.
We're talking about building that thriving practice and all these foundational components, and we know there's a lot of challenges in practice. We get it. We've been in practice, we're still in practice, we still own practices, and there's a lot of common challenges. And so when you come together as a group in a peer-to-peer situation because you're a member of a coaching company like Cats or, whoever, y you and you get to hear how everybody's handling those common challenges, and what are some of the common challenges? Insurance, reimbursement, uh, Medicare compliance, HIPAA compliance, uh,
Understanding you have legal cash services, and
legal cash
collecting on those.
services, that's a big one.
It's a big
Um,
one.
Managing your electronic health records, holy
Yeah.
cow, is that a time-consuming component?
And we didn't talk about this today, but technology fits into that as well as a challenge.
It does.
And, I see a lot of clinics falling by the wayside because they're not keeping up with technology. So, that's just a side note for challenges. That can be a challenge. And I know it is, but the more you embrace it, the easier your practice becomes. There's so many amazing tools out there for us today to overcome some of those challenges in practice and really create a faster way for patients to get connected to you.
Yeah, and that's a good point. And I'm not big on New Year's resolutions, but I'm going to give everybody a challenge. And that challenge is if your state chiropractic association has a convention this year, go to it. Whether you're going for CEUs or not, go walk around and talk to the vendors that are there because that's where you see all the new stuff, all the latest and greatest stuff.
Yeah.
And if your state doesn't do that, I know there are some states that don't allow vendors anymore, which is, I think, kind of sad. But um, take the time to come to the Florida Chiropractic event.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying that because I'm in Florida, but
It
I'm
is
saying
great.
that it's a great event. And there's probably 1,000 or so vendors there. And that's where you really can see a lot of great equipment. It's a great event too. So, make time to do those kind of things because
Yeah.
that's where you're going to get a lot of the ideas about what's out there.
Well, all of these things help us figure out how we can set those foundational blocks to really have a thriving practice.
One of the things that I think is foundational too, and we can kind of wrap up here in a second, but is personal development.
Yeah.
You've got to have personal development. If you don't get off the chiropractic treadmill from time to time, it will suck you under and you will get burned out and you will want to get out of practice. You've got to take time for yourself. We always recommend that doctors should take 4 weeks of vacation a year.
Yep.
That's once a quarter and just put it on the calendar. Your practice is not going to suffer if you manage your schedule correctly.
Yeah.
So figure out ways to get personal development in our coaching program, our mastery, path to mastery program. We inject some of that in there on purpose. We have our doctor's retreats. We do our biweekly mastermind sessions. Just 30 minutes off the treadmill even is just great. And we talk a lot about exit strategies and those kind of things, but
Mhm.
so that you've got an end point sometime somewhere in practice because that's important too. Otherwise, you just see it going on and on and on, and the monotony of that is really hard on you mentally. So you've got to take time for yourself,
Absolutely.
whatever that might be. So we've talked about a lot of foundations today.
Really, yeah, this has been really great and kinda given me some ideas of things that I wanna make sure I'm talking to a couple clients about. So,
Me as
it
well.
it's huge, huge.
Me as well. So if you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe to the KC CHIROpulse podcast. We do these every week. We have a lot of fun doing them, but we feel like we put out a lot of great information for doctors and we get a ton of feedback and our podcast has really grown over the last several months. So we're excited about that too. So also go to catsconsultants.com, check us out, see what we do. We're very different as far as chiropractic business coaching goes. We're very
Mhm.
one-on-one oriented and so forth. And we have several different membership options. Main thing is we don't have long-term contracts. So
Absolutely.
we
There's
know
also some great free resources.
some good
So,
free resources.
check out the free resources. We've got a couple options for some classes that you can watch and learn and see what we teach, as well as a brand new free resource for you is a little sample of literally everything that we do. So sign up, it's free, check us out. And of course, click up at the top and schedule a consult if you would like to just visit.
Absolutely. We do those for free. A lot of people ask, why do you do those for free? Because we like to see doctors have thriving practices
Absolutely.
and we know we can help most of you. So, all right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the KC Chiropulse podcast brought to you by Cats Consultants. We'll see you guys next time.
See ya.